Hello everyone, I'm Travis.
And I'm Nicole.
And let's get wanderlost. In our last several videos, we've been discussing our Greek Isle cruise above Odyssey of the Seas. We talked about some of the shows that we watched, some of the food that we ate, and all of the ports that we went to aboard Odyssey of the Seas. In this video, we're going to go over the rest of the stuff that we did aboard Odyssey of the Seas, including the rest of the shows, the rest of the food that we ate, the packages that we purchased, and some of the other, onboard activities that we took part in. First off, let's talk about the rest of the shows aboard Odyssey of the Seas. The main show in the Royal Theater is the Effectors show. If you've never seen this show, it's on two ships right now. It is on Wonder of the Seas, and it is on Odyssey of the Seas. And it is a superhero-themed stage show with song and dance. Each one of the Effectors has their own little song or part of the show. It's actually really cool. The main ending of it has a gigantic drone show where drones actually fly over the audience. We had been waiting to see this show after we didn't get to see it on Wonder of the Seas, and I would say it was actually really good. I know Nicole loved it, and I would definitely see it again. I can't wait for the next version of Effectors, which is going to be on Icon of the Seas. There were also two more headliner acts. The first one was Beatbox, which is a Beatles cover band. We had originally seen Beatbox on Oasis of the Seas back in 2019, and I'm happy to report that they are still an amazing Beatles cover band. If you see Beatbox, or the Beatles logo, on your cruise compass, make sure you check it out, especially if you like Beatles music. They do a really good job of making you feel like the real Beatles are in front of you. The last headliner is a magician, and his name is Jamie Allen. We saw Jamie Allen on Wonder of the Seas for the inaugural sailing, and I'm just gonna say I'm not a fan. It actually became kind of a joke with the group that we were with of how much I don't like Jamie Allen and his type of magic. I'm a huge fan of Penn and Teller and the Fool Us show and some other magicians out there like Piff the Magic Dragon. And Jamie Allen, his tricks are pretty not good, and he talks about himself a lot. One of his tricks involves an iPhone, and I was actually walking around the ship showing people how they actually did that trick because it's simply just a function of the iPhone calculator. I don't recommend seeing Jamie Allen, but if you want to check him out, and he's on your headliner list, then go right ahead.
One of the other main show areas on Odyssey of the Seas is the 270 lounge. So that is the lounge at the back of the ship with 270-degree windows across the back that they can also use during shows as projection screens. So there's quite a few things that take place in that venue. One we already talked about being the book. They also do midnight fireworks shows in 270 Lounge, as well as the silent disco parties. Some of the daytime shows that they do, such as the game shows, also take place in 270. We already talked about some of the game shows that they did in 270, such as Love and Marriage. They also did Battle of the Sexes, which they do on almost every Royal Caribbean ship. And then we also saw a new game show that I believe our cruise director came up with himself. We've never seen it on any other ship before, and that was Kitchen Nightmares. This was a game show where it was 2 adults versus 2 children. So in this game show, there were 2 different teams, 2 children and 2 adults, that had chefs from the main dining room as their team captains. So the teams had to go against each other, picking ingredients and building dishes, and then the judges had to decide the winner. The judges for these dishes were the hotel manager, food and beverage director, and the ship's captain. This show was actually really good and we quite enjoyed it. We're fans of cooking type reality shows in general, but it was really funny with the cruise director putting spins on it and seeing the judges having to eat the finished dishes.
Speaking of the cruise director, we had cruise director Mike aboard Odyssey of the Seas, and we also had Mike on Wonder of the Seas. I would say he's one of our favorite cruise directors of all the ships that we've been on. The close second would probably be Bing Bong, which is cruise director Mark. We had him on Harmony of the Seas. He had a ton of energy, told some really good jokes, and there was a ton of entertainment aboard Odyssey of the Seas, and a lot of different type of entertainment that you wouldn't have on a different cruise ship on Royal Caribbean. If you see cruise director Mike on your cruise compass or on your itinerary, just know that you're going to have a really good time and there's going to be a ton of onboard activities. One of these activities that I really enjoyed was the dodgeball tournament, which was guests versus Royal Caribbean crew members. You can tell that the crew members were really enjoying throwing dodgeballs at some of the guests in the Seaplex. So if you see that, make sure you check it out. We had a good laugh. It was really enjoyable. On this cruise, we purchased drink packages, as we do with pretty much all of our cruises that we go on, and we got our pretty standard assortment. I got the Coke, or the soda and internet package, and Nicole got the refreshment package. We spent, I believe it was $12 a day on the soda and internet package, and Nicole spent about $20 a day on the refreshment package. We do not drink that often, so getting the deluxe beverage package would not have benefited us, and we maybe ordered, I think, 3 cocktails on the entire cruise. For the soda package, you do get the Coca-Cola Freestyle cup that has the RFID chip in the bottom of it that you can use on all the machines around the ship. And Odyssey of the Seas had more of the Coke Freestyle machines than some of the other ships that we had been on, including one in the Royal Promenade, the Seaplex, the pool deck next to El Loco Fresh, in the Windjammer. Plenty of locations to grab a drink. As per usual, a couple of the soda machines did go down during our trip, which I think is just part of the Coke Freestyle machines. You could also get any type of Coke at your venues and bars and restaurants. The internet aboard Odyssey of the Seas worked really good. I never had any type of issues with slowdown or not being able to connect to it. I think Royal Caribbean has come a long way with their internet from some of their older ships. And if you buy the internet package, as long as you're not trying to stream Netflix or anything, it should work perfectly fine.
I got the refreshment package, and that's because usually the majority of what I drink on cruises is going to be iced lattes, water, and Red Bull. So the refreshment package handles all of that just fine. On Odyssey of the Seas, the coffee shops are going to be located in the Windjammer at the bar, and then also in the 270 Cafe. So both of those have your full service espresso. There is a Starbucks on the Royal Esplanade, but that is not included in the refreshment package. You do have to pay outright for that. And then of course your mocktails, Red Bull, any of that kind of stuff can be found at any of the bars or venues on board.
If you watched our Navigator of the Seas recap video, you'll know that I'm not really the biggest fan of Royal Caribbean's merchandise. And I'm happy to report that along with Wonder of the Seas, on Royal Caribbean's newer ships, they've really changed what type of merchandise they carry on board. Odyssey of the Seas in the logo shop had tons of different shirts and merchandise and little knickknacks and magnets and all kinds of stuff with the Odyssey of the Seas logo or the Royal Caribbean logo that were actually worth buying. The only problem that we kind of ran into is they were kind of short on a few of the sizes. So the sweatshirt that Nicole wanted to purchase, they only had extra large and extra large of it. So we couldn't actually buy that for her. But I was able to get a shirt, a magnet, and a few other things. The merchandise has come a long way. So hopefully Royal Caribbean continues to do this with their newer ships. And hopefully maybe roll some of the newer merchandise out to their older ships in their fleet as well.
On this cruise, we did not get a dining package, as we were staying in a suite, so we had access to Coastal Kitchen instead of having to go to the main dining room. But one night we did decide to go to Izumi Sushi, as that's one of our favorite restaurants on board. So we did just pay outright for that. It was about $90 total for the two of us after taxes and gratuities. So we got, for our appetizers, the shrimp firecracker spring roll and the crispy chicken. And then for our mains, we did the Furumaki spicy crispy shrimp and then the champagne lobster rolls. And then as usual, I got the lava cake and Travis got the mochi. Dinner at Izumi was fantastic as usual. I will say that you do get a little less portion size than what you used to, and the price has increased, so bear that in mind. But overall, the food is always great, and if you enjoy sushi, I would recommend it.
So continuing with the food theme, we'll talk about some of the other food that we ate that we haven't talked about. So we did eat in Coastal Kitchen every night of our cruise, and I'll mention one of the desserts that I absolutely loved. There was a Venturin, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, dessert, and it was kind of a deconstructed one. You can see in the video that we're going to show right now, and it was my favorite dessert on any Royal Caribbean cruise. So if you go to the Coastal Kitchen, make sure you order this on, I think it's night 6. For the Windjammer, we went to the Windjammer once or twice for breakfast, and then mostly we were going to the Windjammer for lunch on like the sea days. The Windjammer was pretty standard for Royal Caribbean. It had all of your normal foods that you would find in there, your theme days, that sort of stuff. And the food was decent. I would say the food obviously was better in Coastal Kitchen for dinner, but if you're just going for a snack or lunch or just a quick breakfast, the food was very good and about on par with the other Royal Caribbean ships that we've been on for the Windjammer. So we've had a couple videos about Odyssey of the Seas so far. We'll just kind of talk about like how we felt about this ship overall. So Nicole, what did you think?
Overall, I enjoyed Odyssey of the Seas. It's very modern, very comfortable. They made some really good choices with the layouts. We've had some issues on other ships where it feels very crowded, such as sometimes in the Windjammer where you have your food but you can't find any place to sit. We really didn't run into that too often. On Odyssey of the Seas, it felt very well dispersed. There was always a couple extra tables that were open. There really wasn't ever any lines for shows or a problem finding seats for shows. So it just felt like overall it was a very well planned out ship and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, if we were to have any type of complaints, they would be very small, like the coffee only being in the 270 lounge versus being in Cafe Promenade. 270 lounge closes a lot earlier than the Promenade does. But it's probably minor, like ticky-tacky type complaints that we would have. I would probably rank Odyssey of the Seas our second favorite cruise ship that we've been on through Royal Caribbean. And I would say it's right below Wonder of the Seas that we were on last year. The shows were really good, minus Jamie Allen. The overall layout of the ship was excellent. The pool deck was good. The food was really good. We loved our room and the view that we had from it. The service was excellent from everybody that we interacted with, including the Coastal Kitchen. It's definitely a second place right behind Wonder of the Seas. So, it was finally time to leave the ship after 7 amazing nights aboard Odyssey of the Seas. Getting off the ship was pretty easy. We selected one of the latest debark times that we could. We actually ran through some of the loft suites at the back of the ship and some of the other types of suites aboard just to kind of check them out before we actually got off the ship. When we finally left the ship, we had a black car waiting for us that our hotel in Rome arranged for us to be picked up in. It cost us about 140 euros to go from Civitavecchia, hopefully I pronounced that right, I was corrected a few times in our comments, from the cruise port to basically Rome for our hotel. The hotel that we stayed at in Rome for our last night in Rome was a smaller hotel kind of near the Vatican area. It was called Boutique Hotel Atelier 800. This hotel was on the, I guess for Americans would be the 3rd floor, or in Rome would be the 2nd floor of a older building that was built in the 1800s. You had to buzz in. The lobby kind of reminded me of somebody's living room, probably because of how old the actual building was. And the room that we had was very comfortable. It had a balcony that kind of overlooked the city street in Rome, with a couple chairs and a table. A very comfortable bed, obviously a TV. It was very small. So we liked the hotel and we would stay there again. But if we were staying there for longer than one night, we would probably select a hotel that was a little bit bigger. It was just very small. Like when you have luggage and backpacks and camera equipment and like all that sort of stuff, it filled up very quickly. One of the cool things about the hotel was the balcony. We got breakfast the next morning and ate out on the balcony before we had to go back to the airport. It was excellent. Just a really cool vibe, a really cool boutique hotel. The service was really good. The lady kept kind of track of us through the WhatsApp app, made sure that we were okay and that we had everything that we needed. Definitely would stay there again. Again, it was Boutique Hotel Atelier 800.
So after we settled into the hotel, we set out on something that we had been planning on doing the entire trip, which is go to Tonnarello. You may have seen it on Instagram. I know it's very popular. It shows up a lot on my feed. It's a touristy thing to do, but we were going to do it anyways. It was within walking distance from our hotel. Only took us maybe about 15 minutes to walk over, and we were able to get over there right when they opened, and so we really only had about a 5-minute wait to get in, which I know can definitely vary depending on when you go. We had tried to go on a Saturday night before the cruise, and it was about an hour or so wait. So just be prepared, but I will say it was worth it. And if we had to have waited, we would have. Obviously, we both ordered pasta. I will say, if you're in between decisions, pick the carbonara. That's the way to go.
The next kind of big thing that we had planned for Rome was to go to the Pantheon. When we were in Rome before the cruise, the line for the Pantheon was kind of ridiculous, and they didn't have any of the prepaid type tours available. So we actually booked an audio tour, self-guided audio tour for the Pantheon. And when we got there, we just kind of walked right in, went up to the counter. They gave us a cell phone and a headphone. And then you're able to actually go to each one of the little stations and listen to about what the Pantheon is and what each one of the displays is and that sort of thing. The Pantheon was amazing. When you look up at the ceiling and the gigantic opening in the center of it, it doesn't look real, let alone something that was built over 2,000 years ago. We go to the theme parks a lot. It felt like something you would see in like a screen-based ride at Universal or Disney, and not something that is real and in front of you and, so ancient. I really enjoyed the tour of the Pantheon. I highly recommend it. Make sure you do the audio self-guided tour and save yourself some money. It was not that expensive at all, and it was a lot cheaper than some of the tours that we had booked through Viator through the city of Rome, and we just booked it directly through the Pantheon website. So put it on your list. Make sure you go. The Pantheon is definitely worth it.
After the tour of the Pantheon, we went to Piazza Navona and walked around, checked out the sights. And then we found what we think is probably one of the best gelato places that we went to during our trip, which is Quinto Gelateria. So from the outside, it does not look like much, but they have great gelato. And from the research I had done is they have it in the metal tins covered up and you can't see it, that's when you know it's gonna be good. So you wanna kind of avoid the very fancy on-show places where you'll see it piled up with lots of decorations and very on display. But you're looking for, they don't need to show it because it's that good.
We also did a ton of exploring around Rome and hit some of the places that we didn't hit before the cruise. One of the places that we did go to was the Spanish Steps and the area around the Spanish Steps, and it was really cool. The Spanish Steps are amazing architecturally. I got a really cool photo from down the alleyway towards them, but it was a lot of people outside shopping, walking around, tons of dogs, really cool vibe, really cool area of Rome. If you're looking for something to do and you want to do a little bit of shopping and walking around, maybe hitting up a couple restaurants or any of that sort of stuff, the Spanish Steps and the area around the Spanish Steps were excellent. There's a Lego store. We definitely went there. That night, we went to dinner with our friends as the last night that we were having in Rome. We went to a place called Poldo e Gianna Osteria. This restaurant was kind of off the beaten path, a little bit off the main roadway. It had a Michelin rated sticker on the window as well. The food was good. Nicole had the carbonara and I had the burrata ravioli. But it wasn't our favorite place, and I felt it could have been a lot better than what it was, especially for the price that we paid for it. And we could have went to Osteria de Fortunata instead. But, I mean, what can you do? You want to try something new and try something good. And when you're in Rome, you have pasta. So that was Poldo e Gianna Osteria.
The next morning, before we had to leave for the airport, we got up early so that we could head over to St. Peter's Square because we had not made it there so far yet. So we were able to check out the square, take some pictures. We did not get a chance to go in because there was a bit of a line and we did have a time crunch to get to the airport. But it was still great to go and get to see it, and we will be back to go inside, so it's all good.
We took another quick walk through some of the areas of Rome, like the Trevi Fountain and a few, like Piazza Navona. But we really needed breakfast before we got in the car and headed back to the airport. So we stopped at Barnum Cafe. And again, another little place that's a little bit off the beaten path. And the pastries that we got there were unbelievable. If you look online and you look at their menu, they have some really good breakfast style and brunch style foods. The pastries are really, really good. The next time we're in Rome, we're definitely going to try some of their actual breakfast foods. But if you're looking for a breakfast place to go and you're on sort of the Vatican side of town or near Piazza Navona, definitely try out Barnum Cafe. It's definitely worth it.
So after breakfast, we had to head to the airport, and we had another car service arranged through the hotel again. This time it was 60 euros to take us to the airport. Overall, great experience again. We really didn't have any issue with booking cars through the hotels. It is a little pricey, but you don't have to worry about anything, and it's super convenient. I would still say that I kind of recommend it, especially if you don't want to deal with the hassle of taking the train or a taxi. Once we got checked in at FCO, it was super quick. There was no line for check-in, and we still had some time before our flight, so we went and found one of the lounges that we have access to thanks to our credit card. It was the Prime Class Lounge, so they had some really good food. Drinks were included. Overall, it was a very nice experience. It was very clean. I will say it was busy, so we did have to kind of stake out a chair and then wait till someone left to get a better spot. But overall, still much better than just sitting in the terminal waiting for your plane, and plus you get a little extra free food.
All right, the flight's home, which we were not really looking forward to because that means the trip is almost over. We've flown Scandinavian Airlines to Rome, and obviously we're flying Scandinavian Airlines home. We flew SAS Plus, which is like the premium economy, from Rome to Copenhagen, Denmark. And then in Denmark, that's where the fun kind of began. Nicole kept bothering me about upgrading to business class because we've never flown business class in any of our travels, and she kept checking to see if there was available seats on the plane from Denmark to JFK in New York. She kept saying, go up to the counter and see if there's any available spots. I didn't tell her that a few days earlier I got an alert from Scandinavian Airlines that our flight was upgraded to business class. I wanted to make it a surprise. So when we finally got to board in Denmark, I kind of handed the boarding pass to the flight attendant, and she's like, oh, you're in row 7, which is on this side. And just the look on Nicole's face kind of made it worth it. Definitely surprised. And we got to fly first class for the first time ever from Denmark to New York. The food in first class on SAS or Scandinavian Airlines was excellent. I had the braised beef burnt ends for my dinner. They gave you some snacks almost through the entire flight. They kept refilling your drinks and asking if you wanted more. So like all of your wine, your champagne, your cocktails, all the food, everything was included. All you had to do is ask one of the flight attendants for it, and they would bring it to you. The seats were obviously way more comfortable and laid down flat if you wanted to take a nap or go to sleep. Plenty of movies to watch. Overall, a really good experience, and definitely way more comfortable than premium economy on the way to Rome from New York on our beginning part of our trip. I just wish we didn't fall asleep and got a chance to kind of enjoy it more. We missed breakfast because we fell asleep. But I mean, what can you say? You get a chance to fly business class, and it wasn't very expensive at all, and it was a great experience. I'd definitely do it again, but not for the typical prices of business class. That's ridiculous. All right, so in New York, we got to JFK, and we got to stay at a place that I have always wanted to stay at since I first heard about this hotel a few years ago, and that's the TWA Hotel. If you didn't know, the TWA Hotel is in the original TWA terminal, the TWA World Center, on JFK grounds, basically where Terminal 1 used to be at. The hotel is like the Art Deco, Googie, mid-century modern design, and it was amazing. We got there super late. They upgraded us to a suite from a regular standard room. It was very comfortable. The bed was amazing. It was super soft, like a big fluffy cloud to sleep on. Really good view of the actual airport. Nice couch in there. The only downside of the room was the shower got water everywhere because it only had like a half glass in the shower. But overall, the room was really great. When we walked around the hotel and saw it was a former terminal for an airport, so it's all aviation themed. The check-in counter is like where you used to check in your luggage at. The food court is like the other side of the check-in area. They have restaurants up top. They have a really nice cocktail lounge behind the hotel that's actually in an old airplane. The rooftop pool. I liked it. It was awesome. If we were to go back to New York and we were staying around that area of JFK, I'd stay at that hotel again. I recommend it. One of our favorite hotels that we've stayed at. Even the coffee shop, which is like a little kiosk. The coffee was great. So TWA Hotel, definitely worth the money, and we would stay there again. So we finally got home, and this is kind of the end of the trip that we planned and took over a year to plan. To kind of wrap it up, I'm going to say this was one of our most favorite vacations that we have taken together. I'd rate it right up there with our trip to Alaska back in 2021. And the first time that I took Nicole to Disneyland in California. It was amazing. I absolutely loved the city of Rome, besides the way the people drove. The history of it, the food, just going to places that you would only see in history books. It was amazing. Every time you turned a corner, there was something there that was older than the entire United States of America. I loved it. The cruise was amazing as well. I cannot wait to go back to Europe. I can't wait to do another Mediterranean-style cruise. I absolutely love this trip, and if you're thinking about doing a Greek Isle cruise and going to Rome, 100% do it. You only live once, right? Definitely do it. So what do you think, Nicole?
Well, again, I enjoyed myself immensely as well. So much so that I made Travis book us another cruise back to the Mediterranean.
Yep.
So if you're interested in seeing what a cruise on Symphony of the Seas out of Barcelona, Spain looks like, stay tuned because that will be coming. And we're going back to Rome.
Yeah, definitely. We got a few restaurants and places we need to go to in Rome that we missed out on when we had to go to the airport to pick up my bag that SAS left in Denmark.
But overall, a great experience. Would highly recommend and can't wait for the next one.
So that kind of wraps up our little Odyssey aboard Odyssey. Be on the lookout for a few more things coming up. We have a full ship tour, a few other things that we kind of have planned. We have 2 trips coming up. We have a road trip to Colorado, and then as Nicole said, we're going to have another Mediterranean cruise in October. A lot of stuff to look forward to on the channel. If you have any questions about this trip or some stuff that we didn't touch on, please make sure you leave them in the comments section below. And as always, make sure you like and subscribe.